and a hearty welcome to all the participants, all my professional colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. This topic, prevention of money laundering law, I mean, it has become talk of the town today, mainly because our present dispensation has given a lot of significance to this subject in last couple of years. And rightly so, because it is not only the requirement of our country to streamline our economy, but also it is an international requirement. And as you would all be aware of that, since India opted to become member of FATF, Financial Action Task Force, it was imperative for India to implement all the guidelines with regard to the maintenance of records, as well as enforcement of a stringent law to deal with the menace of money laundering, which is spread all across the globe. There are many areas where money laundering is happen universally, such as terrorism, drug peddling, human trafficking, arms and ammunitions, smuggling, and many such other areas, big size frauds, cross-border frauds, I would say. So there was definitely a need to bring out a legislation and a robust mechanism to deal with such kind of offenders, which are very hard-skinned and thick-skinned, and also very hard to detect. So that is why all these countries all over the world came together to draft such kind of legislation. And in pursuance to that only, this law came out, first time in 1998. The first draft was presented in 1998. Then finally, it got to be implemented, in the present legislation after 2002 only. So whatever has happened during the past couple of decades, I would say, that may be of relevance. But since we have limited time today, so we will be focusing on the law as it exists today and its nitty-gritties. So I would be sharing my screen to show you my PPTs, and I would be willing to cover my presentation with the help of PPTs so that there could be proper understanding, proper communication of thoughts from my side, and you are able to pick up what I'm trying to say in more convenient manner. So as I said that now this subject has been chosen by the government to take care of various leakages, dents happening in the economy. So this subject is not having its significance in standalone basis. It is wrapped around various subjects going around it, actually. So it is commonly said that this law is a piggybacking law, meaning thereby the law is triggered on the happening of violation of some other law. So violation of some other law happens, and then this law is triggered. That is a different thing, that there are legal confusions and disputes whether without there being any action in any other law, whether the action on standalone basis can be taken here. The consensus, the judicial consensus is no, but still there are some exceptions or some kind of gray areas which we need to understand. So I would try to touch upon only the practical aspects as is bothering many of us or clients of many of us to understand this subject in an appropriate manner. I will be taking a few case studies and examples also, so that I can conveniently convey what I want to share with you. This picture of two chimpanzees having been seized by the Enforcement Directorate must have come to your notice. Because when I came to know that it has been seized by none other than not customs only, by Enforcement Directorate, I was as amused as you might be right now. In fact, when I read it properly, I could find out, yes, within the legal framework, it was possible for ED to seize these two beautiful creatures. Now, how it happened was something like that these two creatures were taken by some smuggler, alleged smuggler, I would say, on the ground, and the charge was that there was some violation of Wildlife Protection Act in his action, and the certificate which he used was also forged. So two violations happened: a Wildlife Protection Act, and also there was violation which was punishable under IPC because of forgery, and both form part of the list of scheduled offences. So since both find mention in the list of scheduled offences, I will explain little later what is scheduled offences. So therefore, they were called as scheduled offences. And scheduled offences, any property derived from commission of a scheduled offence is a property which is said to be proceeds of crime under section 21U of PMLA, and POC, that is proceeds of crime, is liable to be attached under section 5(1) of PMLA. And that is how the Enforcement Directorate got legal powers to make seizure of them. Luckily, fortunately, they were later on handed over to the zoo authorities for the proper upkeep. But that is how I wanted to show that canvas of the AD is too wide. Modi's Benami Law has companies running for cover. So it is not PMLA only. Benami Law also came up in 2016 and came into full force in 2017 onwards. So you must have read this news also in the newspaper, that earlier it was thought that Benami Law is only for politicians, but it has hit very badly to various big size companies also, including listed companies, which is evident from this fact that unless the Supreme Court judgment came up, I mean, many properties of not only few politicians, but many businessmen were attached in all across the country. Now, Supreme Court judgment came in the case of Ganpati Dealcom, which says that the Benami Law transactions happened prior to 1/11/2016 cannot be roped into the present legislation. And that is how all the orders passed covering up old transactions stood quashed by the judgment of Supreme Court. And that is how many people got sigh of relief. But still the department has filed a review petition which is pending for hearing. And that is why in some of the cases, the officers have not released the properties so far, even if the relief has been given by the Appellate Tribunal of Benami Law or the Adjudicating Authority of Benami Law. But still, the release of the property has not yet been done because of the pendency of the review petition before the Supreme Court. Another important thing which we must all understand is that in times to come, it is not only that these laws will have bearing on each other, but also that many agencies have joined their hands together for multi-agency scrutiny. CBI, ED, and many such agencies, Income Tax Department, Customs, DRI, all these, and Ministry of Corporate Affairs, that is ROC and other departments, Allied Department, SFIO, Serious Fraud Investigation Office, they have tied up in a manner, they have exchanged MOUs in a manner that the multi-agency scrutiny or coordinated action would be possible. And it would also be possible because of specific provision having been brought in onto the statute in PMLA, that is section 72A of PMLA, which talks about constitution of interministerial task force. What exactly is money laundering? May I ask this question before I answer this? Your understanding, your guesswork. In fact, somebody would say, sir, conversion of black into white is money laundering. Now, conversion of black into white may be on account of tax evasion. So tax evasion may not necessarily be money laundering if we understand in common parlance as well as legal parlance. So mere evasion of tax is not straight away money laundering. There could be some facets involved, but not involved in money laundering as such. So conversion of black into white, since it is tax evasion, if we want to understand in the help of, in terms of symbolically, in terms of colors, then I would say, symbolically speaking, conversion of red into white may be equated with money laundering. Now the color red here denotes crime. Blood denotes crime. So conversion of red into white means something which is related to crime, which is being portrayed as not related to crime, is money laundering. And since we are talking about money here, so meaning there were any money derived from crime, but shown as not from crime, shown as legit money, legitimate money, that is in common parlance money laundering. To take it little more forward, we can say something like that whosoever directly or indirectly attempts to indulge or knowingly assists or knowingly is a party or is actually involved in any process or activity connected with the pursuits of crime, including its concealment, possession, acquisition, or use, and projecting or claiming it untainted property, shall be guilty of offense of money laundering. Looks to be very typical definition, but the gist and the understanding is this, which I shared with you. For example, there is a illegal dirty money which is converted into legitimate white money by various processes in any manner and portrayed as legit money. That is money laundering. So various conventional activities, now the list has become too wide, but some of the conventional activities I have put where this process of money laundering happens. I mean, it could be false export-import invoices, showing bogus loans, creating bogus companies, through agriculture products, property markets, popular. I mean, many. Now, list is too wide, which we can discuss. So today we will discuss the legislative framework around it, and also some of the case studies, so that how the professionals can do their role legally to represent their clients, as well as provide the support to the government in handling this law properly. First of all, which legislation is governing it? As you all know, Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002, and which is known in short as PMLA. It prohibits and penalizes the money laundering activities in India. Agencies and judicial authorities, first of all, the main agency upon whom the responsibility of enforcement, execution, and implementation has been given is none other than the Enforcement Directorate, popularly known as ED. It does the executive functions, and it does various things which are prescribed under the Act, like the action of search, seizure under Section 19, then passing of provisional attachment order with regard to the pursuits of crime, that is the property involved in money laundering, under Section 5, arrest under Section 19, then it can initiate prosecution, file complaint under Section 3, read with 44 and 45. And all these acts are an investigation, recording of summon, inquiries, etc., etc. All these actions. Nowadays, also another action has been added under Section 12AA, that is ensuring that the designated persons are maintaining proper records and KYCs of their customers and clients, which is in terms of the requirement of FATF. Then adjudicing authority. Now, this is a quasi-judicial authority. In fact, it is a 3-member authority, which is whose principal office is located at Delhi. And it is established under the Act. Its main role and function is to adjudicate the matter connected with and incidental to the attachment and retention of property records. Suppose during the course of search and seizure, some records are retained, and records are retained for a longer period. Then it decides whether the records can be retained or these are to be returned to the people. Similarly, suppose the Enforcement Directorate makes attachment of the property, then to what extent, how long, for what period, in what manner the attachment is to be continued, whether possession is to be taken or not. All these orders which are passed by the Enforcement Directorate, this adjudication is done by the adjudicating authority. It passes order under Section 8, and wherein it disposes the orders passed under Section 5 or passed under Section 17, read with Section 20 and 20(1) of the PMLA. Ideally speaking, it should consist of a chairman and 2 other members. I mean, they are supposed to have persons expertise from different fields, like field of law, firstly, administration, finance, and accounting. But unfortunately, since last 2-3 years, there is only one gentleman who is chairman of the adjudicing authority, whose name is Sri Vinodanand Jha. He was earlier he's a former chief commissioner of income tax, and heading this department of adjudicing authority since last, I think, 4.5 years. He became chairman last year only. So, I mean, though Delhi High Court and few other courts have suggested to the government and directed also that 2 more members should be appointed, because 1 member having expertise in one field only may not be sufficient to take up this complex subject in an appropriate manner. but because of the reasons known to the government functionaries, the appointment of any other member has not been done so far since couple of years. The appellate tribunal. The orders passed by the urging authority are appealable to the appellate tribunal. Appellate tribunal, it is not the income tax appellate tribunal, kindly be careful. It is the appellate tribunal under PMLA. The appellate tribunal has been established under section 25 of the Act, which hears the appeals from the final orders of the urging authority. Now, the time limit for filing of the appeal is 45 days from the date of receipt of the order of the urging authority. The appeal from the decision or order of the appellate authority lie to the jurisdictional high court, where the aggrieved party resides or carries on business. Meaning thereby the urging authority is in Delhi. Against the order of the urging authority, appeal will lie to the appellate tribunal. But from the appellate tribunal, the appeal will lie to the jurisdictional high court, not Delhi High Court. So like this it goes. So first of all, ED, after that urging authority, after that appellate tribunal, after that High Court, and then Supreme Court. Then this was with regard to attachment proceedings. Now, as I said, there is one other action which is involved here, that is prosecution under section 44 and 45. For that, courts of sessions have been designated to carry out the trial, to determine the punishment of imprisonment of the offenders or the accused. So trial for the here one thing is to be noted, that since this is a piggybacking law, meaning thereby there would be a scheduled offense and then this. So trial of scheduled offense will also happen, and trial of this PMLA will also happen, under PMLA will also happen. So since there would have been two different courts, which would have been difficult to carry on, and there would have been lack of harmony and contradictions. So therefore, the law provides that this will be done in the same court. Which court now? There has been controversies, but recently also there is one more judgment. The controversy has been put to rest, and the law also provides that the court which has the jurisdiction to carry out trial under PMLA, that is special court which is committing the case with respect to PMLA, is entitled to commit the case of scheduled offense also. So court of PMLA will do trial of both the offenses, that is scheduled offense as well as offense under PMLA. Then you must have wondered that experience of any person under PMLA is quite harsh. Why it is so? Have you ever thought about it? Why experience of anybody having a brush with PMLA is really very, very torturous? It is because of many reasons, and the prominent ones are these two. That first of all, there is a web of actions. If you will notice, when the action starts, many actions starts simultaneously. For example, there would be first a primary action under scheduled offense, which can be done by the concerned investigation agencies like tax department, police department, CBI, NCB, forest department, etc. And that department will be filing a complaint for scheduled offense in the judicial court, which will become a special court. Ultimately, it will go to special court. So trial of the same will happen. Simultaneously or soon thereafter, the ECIR is recorded by the Enforcement Directorate, and it also files a complaint in course of time to the special court. So both these actions will happen in the special court. Not only that, then the Enforcement Directorate would also promptly take action for attachment of the properties involved in proceeds of crime. So proceedings under Section 5 and then Section 8, they also start. We start with the ED, then go up to urging authority, then tribunal, etc. So all these three actions happen simultaneously. And that is how, this become this complex web of actions which a person is required to face. Important definitions. Now I will discuss with you some of the important definitions which we must know and understand so that we can understand this law more appropriately. Firstly, as I have used the term proceeds of crime time and again, because it is proceeds of crime only, which is the whole idea to bring out PMLA law is to prohibit this proceeds of crime and to prohibit the offender from repeating or doing his activities of money laundering. So proceeds of crime, as the Act defines, means any property derived or obtained directly or indirectly by any person as a result of criminal activity relating to a scheduled offense, or the value of any such property, or where such property is taken or held outside the country, then the property equivalent in value held within the country or abroad. So this definition looks to be very simple and clear, but few controversies are arising here. Now, first of all, the controversy arising is that it is only that property which is involved in pursuits of crime, or any other property. If that property is not available, that also can be covered up in this. So this is an area which can be attached in this. This is an area which has been full of controversies. I mean, as far as the stand of the Enforcement Directorate is concerned, Enforcement Directorate has made attachment of any other property if the property involved in pursuits of crime is not available before them. Even if it is spent, consumed, they have made attachment of the other unconnected properties. But there has been few judgments, like I will explain before you a little later, which says that no, pursuits of crime only means. I will give this judgment to you before I proceed further. Yes, Seema Garg, Satyam Computers, Abdullah Al Balsharaf, which says that no, it is only the property which is involved in offense of money laundering that only can be attached. And you know what is the logic given by this, by these judgments, is that there are two situations which have been envisaged under this law. First situation is where the property means any property derived or obtained directly or indirectly by any person as a result of criminal activity relating to scheduled offense or the value of any such property. And the second situation is where the property is taken outside the country. In that case, they say property equivalent in value. So the words equivalent in value is not there in the first situation. That is reason number one. Reason number two, if you will see, in fact, ultimately, if you see section 8, etc., they talk about only one thing, that ultimately when the special court will pass an order, it will release the property if it is not involved in the offense of money laundering. Even if a person has done offense, he may be convicted, but if the property attached is not involved in money laundering, that will be released. So if a property which is not involved in money laundering is liable to be released by the special court, then that shows that the law is not giving powers to make attachment of any such properties. But, and there was judgment of Honorable Supreme Court also in the case of Vijay Madan Lal. You must have all heard about it. It's a 545 pages judgment from Honorable Supreme Court. Resolved many issues, but many issues have not been yet resolved. And if we read this judgment, then it's para 32, 68 and 97. If we read all of them together, then it gives a feeling that if the property is not connected with the pursuits of crime, it cannot be attached. But if we read section para 68 alone, then it gives a feeling as if any property can be attached. So again, ED is interpreting based upon reading of para 68 only. People, on the other hand, are interpreting on the combined reading of the judgment. If you ask my opinion, I would say judgment should be read in a holistic manner. So if you read the judgment in a way that if you read para 32, 68 and 97 together, then I think property which is not involved in pursuits of crime, that cannot be attached. But still, this remains a gray area. Now, what is scheduled offense? The term which I have been using. As far as my scheduled offense is concerned, schedule means, first of all, schedule appended to the PMLA, which contains list of certain offenses, which is divided into three parts, part A, B, and C, depending upon the degree of the offense. Now, if you see carefully, this is an exhaustive list. So exhaustive that it covers whole plethora of offenses, all possible offenses. So any offense which finds mention in that list is called as scheduled offense. So for the purpose of offense of money laundering having taken place, it is necessary that the person has done scheduled offense, and from commission of scheduled offense, he has earned some money, and that money has been shown as untainted money, that is clean money. That is how the structure of the PMLA is. Now, if you see the formal definition of money laundering, as per section 3, whosoever directly or indirectly attempts to indulge or knowingly assists or knowingly is a party or is actually involved in any process or activity connected with the proceeds of crime, including its concealment, possession, acquisition, or use. Now you see the word and I have put in red color. And projecting or claiming as untainted property shall be guilty of offense of money laundering. Now, why I have put the word and in red color? Now, if you see, this condition is that there should be two things. First of all, there should be earning of proceeds of crime. Second is that a person should project this proceeds of crime as untainted. And both the conditions are cumulative, and that is the whole scheme and idea of this act. And that is why the word and is there. But I have put the word and in red color because there is an explanation which tries to replace this word and with or. Now, if you see the explanation which has been added with effect from 1/8/2019, which says a person shall be guilty of offense of money laundering if such person is found to have directly or indirectly attempted to indulge or knowingly assisted or knowingly is a party or is actually involved in any one or more of the following process or activities connected with the proceeds of crime, namely concealment or possession or acquisition or use. And after the word use, again, there is a word or. Instead of word and, the word use is or projecting as untainted property, or claiming as untainted property in any manner whatsoever. So, meaning thereby, one of the interpretation which is coming forth is that this word or means it is not necessary that projection should be there of untainted. The moment tainted property is earned, that itself is money laundering. But if it is so, then the person will be punished doubly for the same offense. Suppose he has done theft, which is a scheduled offense. Now, merely for doing theft itself, he will be punishable under IPC for theft and under PMLA also for money laundering. I think that does not seem to be the intention of the legislature. So, therefore, there has to be necessarily projection of the money or illegal money as legal, and that is where the provisions with regard to PMLA should get triggered. Anyway, this remains to be a gray area as of now. Now, as I told, there are three processes involved in process of money laundering. Stage 1 will be commission of scheduled offense. Stage 2 or process 2 will be generation of proceeds of crime. And stage 3 or process 3 would be commission of money laundering by placement, layering, integration, meaning thereby showing the property so derived in stage 2 as untainted, as clean, as legit or legitimate in any manner. Now, money laundering involves 3 stages, as I said: placement, layering, integration, and there are different processes attached to it. Now, I am also giving before you in the slide that how the proceedings commence by the ED. They can start inquiry and investigation. Summons can be recorded under Section 50. Survey, search, seizure can happen under Section 16 and 17 of PMLA. Then records may be retained, records, laptops, etc. Then it can proceed for making attachment of the properties involved in money laundering, that is proceeds of crime. And after making attachment, it passes provisional attachment order under Section 5. And within 30 days therefrom, it files an original complaint before the adjudicating authority, on the basis of which it seeks permission to continue the attachment beyond the period of 180 days. And within 180 days, the adjudicating authority is supposed to pass an order. Then it can also file prosecution complaint under Section 45 before the special court. Then the ED also files original application for continuation of retention before the adjudicating authority, as I discussed. It also files original complaint, as I discussed. Then the shelf life of the order of the adjudicating authority is 180 days. In case in 180 days the order is not confirmed, then it ceases to exist. And if the adjudicating authority finds that the attachment has rightly been made, then it extends the period for a period of 365 days or till the pendency of criminal prosecution under this act, as the case may be. Then criminal prosecution, as I said, prosecution complaint can be filed under Section 45 before the special court, and special court does the trial and finally decides the matter for conviction or acquittal. Now, few areas where I find a difference between the way provisions have been drafted and the law as it stands in the books and the law as it stands in practice. Firstly, I would bring to your knowledge this Interministerial Coordination Committee, Section 72A, Central Government may constitute an coordination committee for interdepartmental interagency coordination for the following purposes, that is operational cooperation between various government and law enforcement agencies. Then proceeds of crime I have already discussed. This I can skip. Then another reason, my dear friends, as I said, there are mainly two reasons why a person becomes very perturbed while dealing with this department. First is web of actions. The second is a concept of reverse burden of proof. In any litigation, the rules regarding burden plays very important role. Now, rules regarding burden means legal burden to lead evidence, to prove a fact or to prove an allegation. It is upon which of the parties? It is upon whom? Now, this decides so many things. The burden is upon the accused, or the burden is upon the complainant or the prosecution. This one single factor brings out a lot of changes. Now, our constitution is based on the concept that a person is deemed to be innocent unless proved guilty. And the burden to prove that he is guilty is upon the person who is alleging him to be guilty. But it is said that there is a compromise under this act with this fundamental constitutional concept, which we follow in all walks of life, in all legal arena. It is because of peculiar drafting of section 24, which lays down the burden of proof to be discharged. It says in any proceeding relating to proceeds of crime under this act, in case of person charged with the offense of money laundering, the authority or the court shall, unless the contrary is proved, presume that such proceeds of crime are involved in money laundering. In case of any other person, the authority or the court may presume that such proceeds of crime are involved in money laundering. So now kindly see, it is said that the burden is reverse in this case. That is, burden is upon the accused to prove that he is not guilty. It is true, but partly true. If you see, carefully read this definition, you see that it says, in case a person charged in offense of money laundering, the authority of the court shall, unless the contrary is proved, presume that such proceeds of crime are involved in money laundering. So presumption is with regard to involvement of the proceeds in money laundering. Such proceeds. So meaning thereby two other stages which I mentioned before you, they has to be proved as it is, as per the regular legislation framework. That is, stage number one was, or the process number one was commission of scheduled offense. And number two, generation of proceeds therefrom. So it is not talking about presumption of commission of scheduled offense or presumption of generation of proceeds of crime. So if a person is charged with the offense of money laundering, the burden to prove that scheduled offense has happened and the money has been, and the proceeds have been generated, still rests with the prosecution. And maybe it may be possible that because this distinction has been blurred, this understanding has been missed out, and that is why the burden is being shifted in toto upon the person charged with the offense of money laundering. I think some more clarity is required in this regard by way of an amendment or by way of correct interpretation from the higher judicial forums. Section 5 of PMLA, controversy pertaining to twin reasons to believe. Section prescribes for attachment of property for which the prerequisite is that reasons to believe have to be recorded in writing. That A, any person is possession of proceeds of crime, and such proceeds of crime are likely to be concealed, transferred, or dealt with in any manner which may result in frustrating the proceedings related to confiscation of such POC. Another prerequisite is that such an amendment order can be passed only subsequent to the forwarding of report under section 173 CRPC to the magistrate. Proviso has been carved out for emergent situations when without report under section 173 attachment order can be passed. Now 173 report means filing of a complaint before the court, charge sheet or complaint. So the idea is that there should be, first of all, there should be filing of a charge sheet or complaint, and then only this provision powers under Section 5 can be exercised. However, it is seen the authorities have generally neglected to adhere to this twin requirement of recording reason to believe and utilize the power as given in proviso without recording any separate reason to believe. So meaning thereby, if in any emergent situation, without filing of complaint, the action is being taken, separate reasons should be recorded that why it is so urgent. But no such reasons are recorded separately. I mean, they have not come across. So therefore, it has been made a routine exercise that whether the report under Section 173 is filed or not, the attachment proceedings are begun. Then the provisions with regard to search and seizure. Now, with regard to search, I would say that the main important part here is that if search happens, then the law provides it is that search happens because there is an apprehension or there is a reason to believe that the person is involved in money laundering or is in anything under possession, ownership or control, any record with regard to proceeds of crime, which may be useful or relevant to any proceeding under this act. So the search is done only when there is reason to believe about the availability of proceeds of crime or involvement of the person in money laundering. But as far as seizure part is concerned, it says that it can seize anything there, because at that time it may not be possible for the officers to find out whether this record or property is involved in money laundering or not. So this is very, very draconian provision because it gives wide powers. Section 8. Now, Section 8 talks about non-recording of Section 8 talks about Section 8 is with regard to adjudication proceedings. Meaning thereby, when the original complaint is filed before the adjudicing authority would issue notice to the concerned defendants, requiring them to provide their reply to the original complaint. It will provide the copy of complaint to the defendants. Then defendants will prepare the reply, file it to the adjudicing authority, and then adjudicing authority will decide the matter in course of time after providing hearing to both the parties. Section 8(1) clearly lays down that after the receipt of the OC or OA, the adjudicing authority has to form an independent reason to believe on independent basis, independent of ED. But now the reasons are being authored by the adjudicing authority. But the question here remains how much the reasons are recorded independently. That is an issue, I mean, which is always a challenging issue. What I have seen is the reasons are recorded, I mean, relying upon the whole of the material as it, without applying independent mind, which at times also not possible for the adjudicing authority also, because there are a plethora of cases which are piled up in the office of adjudicing authority. But the difficulty remains that the independence which should come while recording the reasons, I mean, that has not come so far. Similarly, Section 8(4), there is little difficulty in there. Now, once the order of the adjudicing authority is confirmed, Section 8(4) gives powers to that the enforcement officer can forthwith take possession of the property of whose attachment has been confirmed by the adjudicing authority. Rule 5(2) also says that if property confirmed or attachment is immovable property, then the enforcement officer may serve an eviction notice of 10 days. However, this power of taking possession of the property by enforcement is a very, very draconian power, harsh. Why I am saying so? Because by the end of the adjudicing authority's passing of the order, the judicious application of mind is not possible because of the way the authority has been created, because of the huge burden which is there with the authority, because all over India's cases are there with one authority. So it is not possible, practically possible, to apply mind and decide the cases on an independent basis. So orders are passed in a mechanized manner by and large. Under such a scenario, if the power to take possession is also given, then it becomes very harsh because it is difficult for the ED to maintain property. And suppose if the wrong property is attached, then the damage arising cannot be undone. Properties become useless properties thereafter because it is difficult. And in any case, since the property is already under attachment, I mean, the interest of the revenue is safeguarded. Interest of the government is safeguarded. So instead of taking possession at that stage, I think possession should not be taken before application of mind by the judicial authority, that is at least Honorable Appellate Tribunal, not before that. There are a few other problems which we are facing, that there are no judicial members so far, despite clear directions from the Honorable High Courts. I mean, summary procedure is followed sometimes in education based only on the incomplete facts and prima facie evidences, which creates a difficult task. Then, friends, as I said, this law is wrapped around by many laws, which I wanted to show with the help of this slide. Now, if you in this slide, you will see I have put Benami law in the central picture as a centrifugal point. It is mainly because of the reason that the findings of the authorities investigation agencies is that wherever any wrongdoing is found, the chances are that some of the transactions done are Benami, because the person who is doing wrong would like to mask the transaction, hide the transaction, etc., etc. Since masking of the transaction, hiding of the transaction is done, so something is done wherein provisions of Benami law are attracted. Now, every law is affecting other law here. Now, for example, some frauds are done under Companies Act, then it may lead to money laundering, it may lead to Benami transactions, it may lead to an action under section 447 and 212(8) by SFIO, it may lead to action under SEBI and vice versa. SEBI, any violation of SEBI, it may be a scheduled offense. Specific sections are mentioned in schedule. So violation of SEBI may also lead to a violation of PMLA, and PMLA can be attracted. Similarly, Black Money Act, it specifically says section 50, if it is violated, it is a scheduled offense, section 50 of Black Money Act. So violation of Black Money Act can also lead to PMLA, violation under PMLA. Now, why I have brought out this slide before you, so that whenever you are verifying a transaction and some client is requiring your consultancy, then we are supposed to make out an holistic examination and give an appropriate opinion upon that. And whenever we are creating a defense mechanism, in the defense mechanism, under the defense mechanism also, the onerous duty lies upon us that when we file reply under one law, the proceedings going on under one law, we have to take care of its possible ramifications under the proceedings which may be initiated under other law. So that is how I say interplay of various laws dealing with the economic offenses is must to understand before we represent these laws properly. Now, this case study. This is a very, very interesting case study. One factory was purchased in the year 2005. And it was a distillery manufacturing unit. Some allegations were put upon the factory that there is a violation of Environment Protection Act and Water Pollution Control Act in the year 2009. And one FIR was filed by Pollution Control Board of the state. Then requisite remedial measures were done by the distillery unit, that is including repairs of the water treatment plant, and it got repaired. Thereafter, no further action was taken by the Pollution Control Board and it was pending. But subsequently, after a few years, the Enforcement Directorate comes into picture and sends a notice for attachment of the factory building on the ground of this violation of Water Pollution Act and Environment Protection Act, they being scheduled offenses. When I further examined the case to find out where is the money involvement here, then the analysis were something like this, that since water treatment plant was not functioning properly, excess water was discharged, more than licensed capacity production was produced, this spirit was produced of quantity of more than the licensed production. So this production was illegal production. Illegal production would have resulted into illegal sales. Illegal sales would have resulted into illegal profit. Illegal profit would have been invested into the factory building, and this factory buildings becomes proceeds of crime. And that is why we want to attach the proceeds of crime. Therefore, we are attaching the factory building. Please vacate it. So this was really a bolt from the blue for the factory owners, and somehow wisdom prevailed, and the honorable tribunal gave status quo, and then the matter is going on. Then not only that, then the prosecution was also filed, and the bails have been obtained subsequently. So kindly see the wide connect where where is the, I mean, on the one hand there is only a violation of Environment Protection Act or Water Pollution Act, and on the other hand we have ramifications under PMLA, which are hard to imagine, but reality is there before us. Then there is a Bitcoin. One gentleman joined a company to trade in Bitcoin, though trading in Bitcoin was neither legal nor illegal properly in any manner. But how he got roped into these proceedings was something like that, that some of the persons who lost money in Bitcoins filed complaints against the company and all the senior persons associated with the company. So one of the gentlemen was associated with the company. So since many complaints at many districts were filed, including that of cheating, forgery, misleading, misrepresentation, etc., they were treated as scheduled offense by the ED, and ED came into action and filed ECIR and took action under this law, including that of filing of prosecution complaint, and as well as not only prosecution complaint, also they made attachment of the entire proceeds which were generated from dealing in Bitcoins. Now, one thing I want to share with you. You would have noticed the maximum number of cases which are going on in the country with regard to are with regard to many bank default cases where people have defaulted in making repayments of the bank loans. So when the bank default happens, as per RBI norms, it has to be treated as a fraud account. Now, since it has to be treated as fraud account, even if it is not fraud, the ED gets power to take action thereupon. So even if the prosecution complaint is filed with CBI or not, and if it is filed with CBI, then necessarily so. So if a complaint is filed by the banker to recover its money with the EOW or CBI, then the ED will also come into picture, and the ED will draft an ECIR alleging that this entire amount of loan taken from the banker by the said borrower was fraudulently obtained or misused. So therefore it becomes proceeds of crime. Now, the moment it becomes proceeds of crime, then the next action which happens is wherever these proceeds of crime travel, they all come within the range of firing by the ED, because the entire money is treated as proceeds of crime. So suppose a large size corporate borrower has obtained a loan of rupees, a credit facility of rupees 1,000 crore, which has gone bad. So the ED's endeavor would be to find out the trail of this entire amount of 1,000 crores and make attachment therefrom. So it becomes a very, very complex exercise. It is not possible for the lawyers specializing in criminal law to explain this whole complex financial issue, financial structuring, the financial trail, to himself, first of all, to prepare for himself and to explain to the judge also. Here comes the role of chartered accountants, tax professionals, other finance persons to understand the nitty-gritties, the complexities of the financial structuring involved in the transaction, make it simple, compare it with law, and then explain it to the criminal lawyer and then to the judge also. For example, the first step should be identifying the source of the attached properties and differentiating it with the alleged proceeds of crime, identifying loan utilization in the attached property, calculation of correct value of any alleged proceeds of crime, valuation of property attached and comparison with the alleged proceeds of crime, proper financial accounting and analysis, preparation of money trail for the attached properties to demarcate the source of funds. I think these are the areas where role of chartered accountant becomes enormous. Now, friends, as I said that because of the requirement of Financial Action Task Force, the PMLA is also enforcing the rule with regard to the maintenance of records and KYC norms to be collected by the traders, by the business class, by the business people, many business people and institutions, which we will mention. So it has recommended comprehensive framework of the framework of measures to help the countries, and so many things which it has prescribed. I mean, the main guideline is that any transaction about $50,000 or euro 50,000, I mean, or any wire transfers. So one has to be all the service providing people or the business people, designated persons, we'll discuss little later. They have to be very careful in documentation, maintenance of records, and collecting the KYC. Or where there is any suspicion of money laundering or terrorist financing, or where the financial institution has doubt about the veracity or adequacy of the previously obtained customer identification data, etc. So various steps it has described, which I think are there in the slide, and I hope Taxmann would be circulating the slide. And I must express my thanks to Taxmann also for organizing this webinar. Then record keeping. Also, it has been prescribed how in what manner it has to be done. Now, what is the law here in the country contained under PMLA 2002? There is Chapter 4, which provides obligations of the banking companies and financial institutions and intermediaries. Section 12AA provides about enhanced due diligence, which was added with effect from Finance Act 2019. It casts duty upon the reporting entity to do what? Prior to commencement of each specified transaction, to verify the identity of client by authentication of Aadhaar. Then to take additional steps to examine the ownership and financial position, including sources of funds of the client. This is equally important. Number 3, then to take additional steps to record the purpose behind conducting the specified transaction and intended nature of the relationship between transaction parties. So these are the broad 3 steps which it has to do, meaning thereby Aadhaar authentication, examining the authenticity by way of examining the ownership and financial position, including the funds, then also taking additional steps for the purpose of recording and collecting of KYC. It is also says that if the client fails to fulfill the condition, reporting entity shall not allow the specific transaction. So the burden upon the reporting entity is so heavy that he can allow the transaction only when these 3 conditions are fulfilled. Now, who is reporting entity here? That is very important. Reporting entity means a banking company, financial institutions, an intermediary, or any person carrying on a designated business or profession. So these first three are specifically straight away defined: banking company, financial institution, and intermediary. Then the last category is also important: designated business, or who are carrying on designated business or profession. Now, what kind of businesses or what kind of persons? Again, it defines Section 2(1) SA. A person carrying on the activities of playing games of chance, cash or kind, including such activities associated with casino. It is applicable upon them. Then registrars, all registrars, property registrar means real estate agents, as may be notified by the central government. Then dealers in precious metals, precious stones, and other high value goods, as may be noted by the central government. So all jewelers are covered. Then any person engaged in safekeeping and administration of cash, these locker providing persons and these cash carrying persons. Then any other activities if the government may modify time to time. So all jewelers, all registrars, all banking, financial company, etc., casino, games, real estate agents, they're all covered. Then with effect from 7th March, recently, another notification came, which is talking about persons dealing in virtual digital assets and currencies. That is all what we call as these bitcoins. So all these Bitcoin dealing agencies, they are also being covered now. So they have also to maintain data, and they have come within the definition of reporting entity, this reporting entity which I mentioned. And the burden wise, what reporting entity's burden is to do all these ABC things, which is given in section 12AA. Now, what are those ABC things? Rule 3 prescribes about maintenance of records. It says all the transactions, particularly where cash transaction of the value of more than 10 lakh rupees or its equivalent in foreign currency, or any small transactions, but they are integrated in such a manner that they become 10 lakh. Series of transactions. If in any manner it is felt that this is part of any bigger transaction, then you aggregate. And if it is more than 10 lakh, then the maintenance record rule becomes applicable. Then all transactions involving receipts by non-profit organizations of value more than rupees 10 lakhs. So any receipts more than 10 lakhs, all NPOs have to maintain records. So there are certain more categories where, for example, any suspicious transaction is there, any cross-border wire transactions are there, any purchase and sale by any person of immovable property valued at 50 lakh rupees or more. So if any reporting entity is transacting for more than rupees 50 lakhs in immovable properties, these rules are applicable. Then Rule 9, client due diligence. That was about maintenance of records. Now this is about client due diligence. Now reporting entity has also to do these things. That was regarding 10 lakhs. If you see, it was regarding 10 lakhs. Now suppose transaction is not in 10 lakhs, but lesser. In that case, also these 2-3 things have to be done. What are those? Identifying the clients. Determining whether a client is acting on behalf of a beneficial owner. Then identity of the beneficial owner. Now see how burdensome this duty is. That in case the reporting entity is able to find that he is acting on behalf of somebody else, then he has to collect the identity of the beneficial owner also. Now, kindly see, in any other case, suppose there is at the time of commencement of account-based relationship. If it is an account-based relationship, for example, demat account, for example, any other account, then these things are to be done, which are mentioned in A. In where the casual transactions are there, there is no account-based transaction. Then in case any transaction exceeding rupees 50,000 or any integrated transaction, which will become after integration 50,000 or more, then this entire things which is mentioned there has to be done. What has to be done? This KYC. 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. All complete comprehensive records with regard to KYC have to be collected. Kindly see, these are worth reading. 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. KYC records have to be collected. KYC records have to be uploaded with the central KYC record registry. These are all very, very Herculean tasks. Then, suppose a person does not do that. A reporting entity fails to do that. Then, for that also, specific provision has been created, section 13. If somebody fails to comply with chapter 4, then ED may impose monetary penalty from rupees 10,000 to 1 lakh for each failure. Meaning thereby, if they have entered into 1,000 transactions, if there is a failure with regard to all 1,000 transactions, then for all 1,000 transactions, separate penalty of 10,000 may be imposed. It is so harsh. Then it can also direct a particular person to maintain a record in a particular manner. It means the director of the ED can ask. The director of the ED can also appoint an auditor to carry out the audit in a proper manner and give its report to the enforcement directorate. And based upon that report, the enforcement directorate can take appropriate action suitably. Then section 11A, verification of identity by the reporting entity, which I have already mentioned to you that in what manner it has to verify the identity. Specific section has been brought on record that it cannot be casual in verifying the identity. It's not that somebody has given the, say, KYC norm, say Aadhaar card, that's enough. No, it has to verify also that whether it is correct or not. So friends, that's all about as far as deliberations from my side are concerned. Now, I was told by the organizers that I have to leave some time for the question answer also. So that is why I closed sharp at 6, so that we can have some questions and Komalji or anybody can coordinate, or I can take up from the director's question if it is there.
Yes, sir, you can take the question answers from the QnA session.
Yes. Now, Rajendran ji has asked a very pertinent question. Which law has overriding effect? IPC, other penal laws, or PMLA, particularly in multi-agency investigation resulting in initiative of criminal proceedings? In fact, this is a very important issue which is going on into the country. As far as my understanding is concerned, I explain it differently. I understand and explain it differently in the manner, no law can be supposed to have an overriding effect on all other laws, except to the extent of the operational domain of that. So it is a difficult exercise at times. So every law has its own operational domain, etc. And it cannot exceed that. Suppose let me take the example of this bank fraud cases. Suppose the borrower has mortgaged a property with the banker. Now the ED's right is to attach the proceeds of crime. But this property, say if this property is acquired from the sources other than the loan, and if it is attached by the ED on value equivalent basis only, but not at proceeds of crime, at least on such properties, the right of the banker should be prior. Because of various overriding laws there also under IBC, under Sufficiency. Because the purpose under PMLA is to prohibit proceeds of crime. And this kind of property unconnected therewith is not proceeds of crime. Number one. Number two, according to me, the concept of POC is a dynamic concept, not static. Suppose I have gold or some metal, which is proceeds of crime in my hands, and I sell that gold. And in return, I get value for money. It is a proper transaction, genuine transaction. And the buyer of the gold from me has made purchases from me in a bona fide manner after paying full value, market value, which cannot be doubted to me. Then that gold, according to me, ceases to be proceeds of crime in the hands of the bona fide buyer. And that amount which I received in lieu of that becomes proceeds of crime in my hands. So if ED has to attach, it should not necessarily attach gold. It can attach, or it should attach that money only, so long as the genuineness of the buyer cannot be doubted. Similarly, in the case of builders, where builder has obtained fraudulently some loans, it is building up a project of, say, 30-story. Various home buyers have booked their flats, paying their hard-earned money. Now, even if the builder commits a default, as far as the home buyers purchasing the property with their own funds, booking their flats, having their rights accrued in the flats, in my humble opinion and understanding, they cannot be branded as proceeds of crime. Because branding them as proceeds of crime would be quite harsh, because that is hard-earned money of the home buyers. And hard-earned money of the home buyers cannot be treated as proceeds of crime. Yes, if any home buyer, if he has done hobnobbing with the builder without making proper payment, it has got the plot allotted in his name, that is a non bona fide case, that can be treated differently, but not a regular case of a home buyer. Because the property, which was the property, maybe from, maybe bank funds were involved there, but the moment these properties are sold to the home buyers and lieu of that amount is received, that ceases to be proceeds of crime. Now, whatever funds home buyers have used, you do whatever you want to do with that, if they are available. If not, they are not available, then the story should be between the banker and the bank and the ED. The bank and the builder and the ED. Home buyer should not be disturbed there. So there, I think other laws will have overriding effect. So it will depend upon case-to-case basis. Second question was asked by Rajendran ji on the ground that when adjudication proceedings are held and decided, can prosecution also be undertaken separately? Yes, because prosecution itself is a different area altogether. So prosecution can be done, of course, commence separately. Only thing is the burden to prove about the commission of scheduled offence and earning of proceeds will remain on the shoulders of the prosecution in that case. Now, with regard to KYC rule of 50,000, Nirav is asking, please share more details. I think there are a plethora of things which are required to be mentioned, which are there in Rule 9. You can read it, and I will request Komalji and Sumita Madam to share, and Punitji to share my PPT with the audience, with my learned friends, so that all these things are readily available. Sunil ji is asking, can we get copy of presentation? Yes, of course. I am requesting the organizers, the Taxmann, the Taxmann is the torch bearer. So, I mean, anytime I will request them to circulate this PPTs also. So that's it, I think. If there is any other question, please feel free to ask. On chat also some questions are there. Disguising legal source. Yes, they are there. Channelizing the accounted money. Yes, very rightly attempted. Channelizing the unaccounted money into legal form. Very rightly. Jay Shah has very rightly attempted. Then Harish Kumar ji is saying disguising legal source of income. Yes, that's right. Anish ji is saying well explained. Kindly share PPT. Yes, PPT will definitely be shared. Then Partha Kamal ji saying whether any SC decision conflict between. Yeah, this is I mean, these reasons are there, but still there are gray areas which are going on because of peculiar drafting of Section 32A. I request and expect more clarity on this from the judicial forums also and from the legislature also. Then thanks messages are there. So I think all the questions are taken up so far as my understanding goes. If specifically anybody wants to ask any specific question, Komalji, please unmute the mic and so that we can now see face to face also and cover up if there is anything more required to be covered up. Komalji, if you can, if anybody wants to raise any query.
Sir, for audience, if it is not available, they can post the question.
Your voice is not audible.
Sir, for audience, we cannot unmute the mic. Actually, they can post the questions in chat box only.
Okay, okay, all right. Anish ji is asking what is the basic difference in power of CBI and ED on financial crime? As far as CBI's powers are concerned, that is to deal with the prosecution part of it. That is the offense involved therein. Whatever offense may be there prescribed under IPC or Prevention of Corruption Acts, corruption, etc. CBI also does the analysis of disproportionate assets and accordingly takes requisite action, prescribes requisite action, files requisite complaint before the appropriate forum, that is courts of sessions, if any disproportionate assets are found. ED's role comes where the disproportionate assets have been earned or any illegal money has been earned, to make attachment of illegal money and to file prosecution complaint to punish the offender with regard to conversion of that money into good money. That is broadly difference between. There are powers are overlapping. The job of one is taken up by the job of by the other immediately thereafter, and it goes in seriatim, etc. Yes, madam. So if there is anything more, we can. Anonymous attendee, is there any relation between FCRA and PMLA Act? Yeah, of course. FCRA deals with only foreign contributions coming up into India by being received by various non-government agencies. And it takes control of the fact that that foreign exchange coming is by way of legal means and being used for the legal purposes. And PMLA's role I have already defined to you. So that is the difference between the two. Yes, any other question? My mail ID is there. Still you have anything to ask, which I can be of any help to you, please feel free to ask.